Good evening, and hello to all of the Be Me community. I'm just honored to be here, and I just want to thank Travian Shorters. We see his vision. It is amazing. And thank you all for being here this evening. I wanted to spend some time with you today just sharing with you three key aspects of my life that I believe will allow you to see how it has determined my purpose in life. The first key aspect is my life's journey, and I'll share a little bit about that. The second is my work at the Kellogg Foundation. And the third is our unwavering commitment to pursue racial equity in these United States. Thank you. So as far as my own personal background, many people talk about their degrees and my undergraduate at U of M and an MBA at Northwestern, but let me tell you about the real learning in my life. I am from the city of Detroit. All right, go D. I grew up in the 60s and the 70s in Detroit, and I am number 9 of 10 children. So I used to think that being number 9 in a family of 10 was a disadvantage. But I've now come to realize that I was truly blessed in my life. Because in my family, there were 2 decades between the oldest and youngest child. So I was able to learn from my older siblings and their wisdom. And I believe that I am a representation of their do-over. I was able to copy and replicate their successes and definitely know not to repeat their failures. And as a result, I feel like I'm living with the wisdom of someone 20 years my senior. So with this wisdom, I embarked on my career. And at first, I thought I wanted to be a CPA and to go and work in public accounting. But just 3 years after I started my career, I was recruited by the Kellogg Foundation. And you know what? The number 9 came back to me in a very powerful way. You see, I am the 9th president of the Kellogg Foundation. And this year, the Kellogg Foundation's assets are approaching for the first time ever $9 billion. Which makes us one of the largest foundations in the world. So I stand before you today, and I've just celebrated my 29th anniversary at the Kellogg Foundation. And hopefully by now you see that 9 is my favorite number. And if you remember the title of my speech today, it says 9 is an even number. And I'll tell you why I believe that. So as I entered the foundation, I want to tell you a story about 9 years into this gig. I was the controller at the time, and I was asked to chair the Diversity Advisory Committee at the Kellogg Foundation. And how many of you know that I was probably unqualified for that role, except for the fact that I was a person of color. But I boldly accepted the challenge, and I took on this task and really developed a sense of understanding about equity, diversity, inclusion. I gained empathy. I had compassion for this issue deeply for the first time, and so much so that I want to share with you the day that I walked into our executive council meeting, which were all the leaders of the organization. And I walked in and I looked the president dead in the eye, and I quit as chair of the Diversity Advisory Committee. And I told him that I no longer wanted to lead this committee, that I felt that it was not a job for just one single person in an organization. And I also said that it could not be the job of a committee in an organization. And unless it could be more owned fully, that I no longer wanted to chair this committee, and in fact, I felt it needed to be dissolved completely. And they thought I was joking, but then they saw that I was very serious. And that day, the committee was disbanded. But it was a point at the foundation that I believe changed not only that organization, but it also changed my life, because they got serious. And the committee doesn't exist anymore, but this work is now owned from the C-suite down to every cubicle. Every person in the Kellogg Foundation understands that it is the only way that we can achieve our vision to ensure that all children thrive. And we began to work on our inside game. Today at the Kellogg Foundation, our board is 60% people of color, and the staff is 45% people of color. And in this organization, we know that if we don't get this inside game right, that we'll never have the outside game that will allow us to promote racial equity in this country and to create an environment for all children to thrive. So today, as we do this work at the Kellogg Foundation, we sometimes pause and say, you know, we feel like we're doing the work of the civil rights movement. And I know about that work because, as I shared with you, my older siblings fought that fight. And unfortunately, today, that work is still undone. And that must be our commitment. I've learned that from my siblings, and I know in this nation that if we are going to do this work, that we must walk our talk. The foundation must walk its talk so that we can have the credibility to really do what's best for children. We've come to realize that sometimes in philanthropy, you end up funding symptoms and not root causes. And we believe that equity is at the root of what is necessary for this nation to thrive. So we're not yet in a post-racial society. I know we're not, because when you can look at a Native American child who's 3 times more likely to be living in poverty than their white counterparts, we know that we're not there yet. And in fact, there is something deeply wrong. When you can predict a child's health status from their zip code as opposed to their genetic code, we know that we're not there yet. There is still something wrong. And finally, when you can create segregated communities where Dolores Acevedo Garcia describes them as low opportunity neighborhoods. When we can see that every day and continue to move forward, we know that there is something wrong. But what I believe and what the Kellogg Foundation believes is that we are dealing with a mindset issue. That's what's wrong. The mindset that believes that it's okay for these low opportunity neighborhoods because it's those people. The mindset that believes that there's some hierarchy of human value. Well, we know that that mindset must shift. And there's a pathway that we believe we can take to shift this mindset. And it's called the Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation Enterprise. This is work that the Kellogg Foundation will launch. This is work that I personally believe in, and it's based on a premise that relationships must change in communities, that communities can enter into a space of dialogue, a safe space for learning one another and determining that we are all of one common humanity. That is the Kellogg Foundation's vision, it's my vision, and it's our hope that it will be this nation's vision. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, number 9 is even because this number 9 believes in equity, and it's what we must come to as a nation. Thank you.